Welcome back to our third of an acre garden here in West Sussex. It is a beautiful evening in the middle of May and I'm going to show you around and look at what we've been doing for the last few months. At this time of year in the garden, everything is growing so fast. These have shot up inches in just a few weeks. The weeds are growing as fast as the plants. So it's a lot of weeding. It's a lot of kind of trying to keep everything clean and then make sure that we have seedlings to go out into spaces whenever a space pops up. We bought this space a year ago and our goal with it is to grow as much of our food, to raise as much of our food as we can on a third of an acre. I'm a beginner, it's a learning journey, but this is where we are so far. Probably the biggest change in the garden, aside from everything growing really fast, is we have added 5 ducks. We've had chickens for years, and when we left our last chickens at my parents' house when we moved, I thought we would go a different route and try ducks. Ducks are really good at hunting slugs, and this year I feel like everyone's had an issue with slugs. We've had so many slugs in the garden, so that was one of my motivations for getting ducks, along with a seasonal pond at the bottom of our garden. But they also lay for longer than chickens, so there are fewer years where you have them alive but not laying eggs, which was a big benefit. Hello. And then their manure, so the duck poop, can go straight on the garden, whereas chicken manure can't go straight on the garden. It's a hot manure. So the ducks are great slug hunters. Their manure can go straight on the garden. They lay for longer time. The eggs are a little bit different, so we may still add chickens, but we are loving having them for now. Okay, so let's talk about slugs. This has been such a battle. I have planted so many things that have been completely destroyed by slugs. And aside from the ducks, we've been trying a few different things. So this is one of the beds that I built. You can see we built this bed. This was just grass, but I looked and went, this is a bit of space that we can use. So we threw down some cardboard, wood chip, soil, compost, all the different bits, and we tried to grow some peas. Well, the slugs completely demolished the first round of peas. So the first thing that I tried was to go in with this wool matting. A lot of people swear by wool for keeping slugs at bay, and it did actually help. So I put a row of seedlings out, nothing touched them for about a week, and then it seemed like the slugs figured it out and they were destroyed. So then I have gone in for dried baked eggshells. They seem to be doing better, and the peas that were demolished started to grow back even before the ducks, just with the eggshells. So eggshells, wool and ducks are my magic combo for slugs, but I think even without the ducks, the eggshell wool combo seems to be a pretty good one. So this is the main growing space of the garden, and we're just trying to extend it bit by bit. So we've been here for a full year, and that's let us really look at where there is sun, which areas get the most sunlight, which areas grow well, and just kind of learn the garden so that we can put beds in the places where it makes the most sense. This is the section of the garden that gets the most sun. You can see even in the evening, these beds here are still in full sunlight. So these are where I'm going to put the things that need the most sun. I've got some tomatoes in here which want a lot of sun, and then we'll take some of these greens out, put more tomatoes in here. But the first things that went in this season were potatoes. So these top 2 beds are all potatoes. We've got our first earlies down here, and as soon as these die off in maybe about 4 weeks, we'll pull those out and these will get replaced by green beans. Then we've got our second round of potatoes. Those went in about 3 weeks later, and also some calendula, which is often used in salves as a medicinal flower, but I just love it for having cut flowers in the house constantly throughout the late summer and autumn. It's a beautiful orange flower. So a lot of potatoes in there. And then this was a surprise for us when we viewed the house. There were no raspberries here. I think they were cut down maybe because they could be viewed by some as messy, but we've got a ton of little baby raspberries coming out here and pollinators buzzing all around them. We've been trying to extend these raspberries by taking some of the suckers and planting them to extend our raspberry space. And then moving down, these 6 raised beds we built at the end of last year, and they have been actually pretty effective against the slugs. We get a lot less slug damage in the raised beds. So we've got in here some chard, spinach, and all of this was grown in the greenhouse. I've started pretty much everything in the greenhouse to get a head start with the warmth and to have seedlings ready to go as soon as there's bed space open, and also to help against slugs and other pests. So then tomatoes in here and peas growing up the side. I've tried to reuse things wherever I possibly can to minimize the footprint of a backyard garden. There have been some headlines recently about the impact, the negative impact of small scale backyard gardening, but I think we really minimize that when we take what's already in circulation as much as we can and use it in our garden. So these are secondhand or third-hand pallet collars that are all my raised beds. This came from some friends at a kombucha company. It was just from deliveries, and we've now got beautiful mange too growing up this on one side and peas on the other. You can see the first little peas in there, or mange too. Sweet and delicious. And yeah, and then string from my veg box, and that is all that is holding those up. Around here I have a big bed of rocket or arugula, which is one of my favorite things to grow. It's one of the first things we ever grew in our tiny city garden in burning hot California, and it's really easy to grow. It's really expensive to buy. This rocket is especially exciting to me because it is the one crop in the garden that I have grown from seed that we saved last year. You can see it's beginning to flower at the top, and we'll be able to save those seeds and save them again for next year. All the seed I buy is from pretty much all from Vital Seeds, which is a UK grown organic seed company that's open pollinated. So we can save the seed, whereas some seed you can't save. If it's an F1 or a hybridized seed, this seed is all open pollinated. So we can save the seed, and it means it adapts to our area more and more. So it will be more and more adapted to growing here in this region. And these down here are beds that get less light, and you can tell with the rate of growth that there is a lot less sunlight on these beds, so we'll sow them accordingly. Right now I've just thrown some things in to try and use all the space we can. These are peas, and we'll probably just use them just for the shoots. You can eat the pea tops in salads. They make a really yummy green before they even make pea pods. I took a risk over here and planted this blueberry bush that I was given for my birthday directly in the soil. Blueberries need a different kind of soil, but because of some of the other things we have growing in the garden, like rhododendrons, I thought that was probably a clue that it would do okay. And we have some tiny little blueberries actually beginning to get blue down here. So I'm gonna net this one to make sure that we actually get to eat the blueberries. We also have two cherry trees that are dripping in cherries. You can see this is the smaller of the tree by a long way, and last year the birds got every single cherry. I don't think I'm going to net the cherry trees. I'm happy to let the birds have them, but we will see if we get any that ripen this year. But there are hundreds, thousands between the two trees, so we will see. And at the bottom of the garden, close to the veggie patch, we have our bees who are coming and going all the time. We went in about a week ago and gave them more space. There's a ton of pollen and nectar around, so they are producing a ton more bees and making honey in there as well. We have the entrance to their hive facing out of the garden, not onto someone else's garden. This is not residential right here, which is great because we can direct their flight path over the fence and keep the garden a little bit freer from bees. And so far, it is working. Up here, I decided to do the Pinterest thing and try and build a sweet pea pyramid tent for the kids. I thought it'd be kind of fun. Actually, I probably should have put a bed here, and next year we will do that because this is one of the sunniest spots and we could probably harness the light for growing veggies. But we've got some sweet peas here that will hopefully produce a really pretty tent for the kids to play in the summer. And in the greenhouse, we were very, very lucky to get a house that already had a greenhouse, and we have a lot growing in here. We've got an in-ground bed, which is a gift in a greenhouse, and you can see how much further along the different things are in here that we also have outside. So this rocket was planted at the same time as the rocket outside, but this is already flowering in here. So we will save the seed from this one and then replace it with other things. We've got tomatoes in the in-ground bed, which we've got some beautiful little flowers on those. A lot more tomato plants down here and some strawberries. We actually already in mid-May have had some red, ripe, juicy strawberries, which my 2-year-old stole all of, but the power of a greenhouse. And then we've got a lot of seeds starting. So the goal is that when the potatoes come out, we'll have green beans ready to go in. When different greens come out, there'll be plants ready and waiting to go in all the space so that no space is empty and we're getting as much as we can from the garden. So this is what all of these seeds are. We've got cucumbers, Last year we actually got watermelons from in the greenhouse. They were only the size of maybe grapefruits, but we've started them this year about 5 or 6 weeks earlier. So hopefully we'll get some greenhouse watermelons this year. And in this space here was palm trees, which we took them out. I don't like taking out trees, but they were taking all of the light onto this greenhouse. And you can see that now we've been able to A, have light on the greenhouse, but B, put in this L-shaped bed here, where we've got a lot of beautiful broad beans. And we've got some little pods down at the bottom. We've got a bed of onions, more broad beans, and more tomatoes. So we've really harnessed that space to grow. And then down here, I just threw in some potatoes. So we got a bunch of soil for free. We filled in this big pond that we had here, and I just threw in potatoes when we were filling in the pond. And so this whole area is just extra potatoes, and they've actually grown the best, which is really intriguing to me. We haven't done a ton of amending soil. We've put our own compost. We've got 2 big compost bins. Our own compost has gone on. I've also added some bone meal. That's about it. I haven't really bought in anything else. So we've done bone meal, eggshells, ground up for tomatoes, and then our own compost. That's all we've really amended with. But these ones really like everything that we put in this pond space. These here are little apple trees, which I was so nervous about through winter. When you buy apple trees in their dormant time in winter, they are just a root ball and they look like a dead tree. And they were not coming back to life. But we now have a lot of leaves. We've had blossom. These are M26 apple trees, so they won't really get much bigger than this, which felt perfect for the space. And if you have a smaller outdoor space, getting a dwarf fruit tree is perfect. And I'm really excited to have those 2 there. Okay, what else do we have to show you? This is the constant weeding of this time of year. You can never keep up. The previous owners had flowers in here, but it's actually a really sunny spot in the garden. So I decided to take out the flowers, put them in some pots, and use this to have greens really close to the kitchen. So we've got lots of little lettuces here, and you can see again all the eggshells, which are working quite well. The ducks don't even come up really in this space, but it is slug-free. And we've got some really happy baby lettuces. This I love as an old bathtub, which again, using what's already in circulation to make beds and whatever we need in our back gardens is a much more sustainable way of backyard gardening. Originally, I had thought I would build this beautiful Pinteresty strawberry bed, but actually we've put them all in pots and it's working really well because we can move them around to sunny spots. So this is not really the garden-y area of the garden, but it's really sunny. It is a little sun trap. So I've moved all the strawberries up here and we're just taking all the little corners of the garden. We have another pot down here. So just really wherever there's a pot, I filled it with strawberries. These all came from runners from my parents' strawberries. They send out runners after they fruit. And if you know someone with strawberry plants, it's a great way to get strawberry plants for free. And then next year, all of these will send out runners and we'll be able to take multiple new strawberry plants from each one plant that we have now and increase the number of strawberries that we have for next year. So that is what is happening in the garden in mid-May. Like I said, I am a beginner, I am learning. So I am following mostly Charles Dowding. He has a brilliant veg planting calendar, which I'll link below. It is a cheap and brilliant resource for telling you exactly what to plant and when. And I'm kind of just doing what he says. But my main thoughts are just to make sure I have seeds, growing little seedlings to fill in all the space, keeping everything weed-free as much as we can, and having fun. If you want to do a full deep dive into looking around a beehive, you can watch that here. I did a hive inspection and I'll show you what we're looking for. And if you want to go back and see what the garden first looked like a year ago and what we have done with it since then, you can see this video here. And if you want to follow along and see what we do throughout the rest of the year, you can hit subscribe and you'll see all our future gardening videos. And I'll see you in another video sometime soon.